Network.
That's working. Beautiful. Okay. Hello. Marco Polo here with another installment of the Valhalla Movie Podcast. Super excited to do these podcasts. Super excited to come to you live. I got to ask you guys a favor, though, while you're listening to this, as you're tuning in. Come on, rate this. Find a way. You know, you have the moment right now as you're dialing in. You're about to get a download of awesome information from Nathaniel, who's our guest today, and I'll get to that in a second. But please, please do rate this. It really helps us. It gets more people like you to be able to listen to this. It allows me to feel more and more inspired to get as many guests as possible. And the bigger our numbers go, it's not that I care about how many numbers, but the more influence we really have and the more potential people I can unlock on, the more we can bring to you, the more people I can potentially hire on the team or whatever it is. Please rate this. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. More than that, I'm going to say this like a broken record. If you're listening to these podcasts one after the other, you're going to hear about green seed every time. Why? Because it's going to change your life. It's going to empower you, the change makers, the people who really want to make shit happen for real and empower yourselves to do it. Well, that's what green seed is all about. It's a crowdsourcing platform. I don't want to dive into too much because this is not what this is about. But go and sign up to our newsletter at greenseed.me. Greenseed, one word, .me. You will be, I guarantee you'll be blown away. It's going to be the next level of Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Thunderclap, you name it. We're combining all of that stuff together, all for social causes and sustainable initiatives. So that being said, without further ado, we've got a really close friend of mine at this point, somebody who I absolutely love and respect in all shapes and sizes, in all ways I could possibly love and respect someone. Nathaniel Solace, who is one of the creators of Creator Course, which is at the moment a blog that is just gaining steam. There's a Facebook page. All of that kind of stuff will be linked below if you guys want to watch or check this out while you're or read around while you're listening to something like this. He is just an incredible, I believe you are also a personal coach to people to help get them on the path and finding their purpose and aligning themselves in the right way. You seem to be doing all kinds of positive, awesome things, and well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, man. Quite the intro. I totally just want to give you a big thank you. I'm super honored to be here. I love everything that you're doing, and just being able to join forces and spark conversation and connect with everybody is really amazing. And I totally want to reaffirm your intro of having, like, the people watching right now, this all works by us engaging and participating. Absolutely. So totally rate it, totally share it. And I know a lot about green seed, so if you haven't checked it out yet, seriously, go check it out. It's honestly a big deal. Like, just being really real about it. It's totally a big deal. So I totally support all of that and just want to rehash that call to action because it's valuable to me. It's important to me that people are tapping into that,
Well, absolutely. I mean, and people, I wish people fully understood the real power of their clicks. Like literally every single time that you like something or that you comment on something and that you share something, it's voting not only to us, so not only to like me and you who, let's say they like our status, but even liking other people's statuses and other things that they agree with. Well, guess what? Facebook and all these APIs, they show you what you want to see. Okay? So they're catering your newsfeed to you. So if what you want to see is coming up, make sure to like it. Like make sure to comment on it. Make sure to share it because then you're going to see more of that first of all. And you're going to surround yourself and your online self in a sense with all those positive messages that you want to see versus, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that are on your Facebook feed you just don't want to see. So ignore those things, like, comment, subscribe, all those things to the other things. And you have to show support because for us, I know as a content creator, as somebody who is consistently trying to put out these podcasts and blogs and doing as much as we possibly can on the video and photo and on all these fronts every week, every day. It always makes me feel good when I post something and it jives with people. And when it does that, it really allows us to know what you guys want more of too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you guys are out there, we're trying to guess, we're trying to figure out like, no, maybe this will work. And you know, people, I call myself a marketing guy, but marketing, a lot of marketing is understanding what you guys want to hear. I don't want to market.
It's a listening.
Exactly.
You're just a listening guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy who's just looking at the numbers and listening and seeing what does well. You know, I know, okay, hemp, you're down with hemp. You're down with marijuana and hemp. I got it. Great. Earthships, seems like you guys are up there with that too. Permaculture, all right, that's growing, you know. So if you guys have ideas, you have topics, you want us to cover something, just suggest it to us, guys. We are here to talk to you. I know you are, Nathaniel. I know you're engaging with people every day. I love you. I mean, your statuses are always super empowering. You always got something, and even just your spoken word with no picture, no nothing, you're getting people's engagement. And man, I gotta applaud to you on that. You're killing it.
Thanks. I would prefer to say I'm enlivening it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Right. Which again, that all ties in. Paying attention to, not like you're saying with the content and stuff, and for people to be more involved in paying attention to their input and their output. Like me right there, deciding to say I'm enlivening something instead of killing something. That's me paying attention to my output, and then me, you know, deciding to influence what content that's coming to me, what content I'm choosing to stay subscribed to. Not only really helps, well, at the same time, it literally helps the world become a better place by you surrounding yourself with more of what serves you and what feels good for you and what keeps you happy and healthy and real. You know, this isn't about, you know, cleaning up your Facebook timeline so you only see happy, fluffy stuff.
No.
But it's like, it's designing it in a way so you're seeing stuff that's helping you be who you're here to be. Absolutely. And from my perspective, I feel like everyone's waking up more and more to realizing like they're here to be the fullness of themselves, which includes going through every type of emotion, every type of consideration, every type of awareness, and being able to have that full spectrum that we then bring into the moment, that we then bring into what we're creating, who we're choosing to become, and what we're doing out there in the world. And I can absolutely say from my own experience, really getting in the way of that process of what content and information and media am I having in front of me on a regular basis just has shifts my consciousness on a very tangible level.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. In fact, I'd say almost maybe 6 months ago, I spent a good like 4 hours and literally just went through my Facebook feed, and I'd noticed like, oh yeah, I always see posts from that guy, and it's just a bunch of like, he's just complaining about something. So I just I don't need to like unfriend him, because cool, he's on the team, but I can make it so I don't have to see their stuff.
Their notifications.
And I started cleaning up all these things and started unliking tons of pages that I previously had liked and all this stuff. And now my page is just seeing my absolute favorite people and what they're up to, my favorite like news and information from things. So I'm feeling up to date. And then all these incredible content providers like Valhalla and Collective Evolution, The Mind Unleashed, Spirit Science and Metaphysics, all these guys just getting all this content and seeing what's ripe and what's real in this whole scene, you know, whatever we want to call it. It's the name of the game. I think the more and more people start to pay attention to how much influence they can actually have over their input and their output, and how on a lot of levels the input you're getting actually, it kind of dictates your output unconsciously.
Absolutely.
Where you might have seen like a bunch of crappy ass posts in your feed all day, and then you're finally done with work and you want to go like relax, and you just kind of feel crappy, and you don't really know why, and you can't actually pinpoint it to something because it's such a subconscious thing, just scrolling through and seeing content and seeing feeds, and you don't really realize it. And a big part of my work and the work I do with Amateo Ra and Creator Course is a lot about just giving people that chance and that opportunity to stop for a moment and have a say on like what their input and their output is, and what they're, you know, what they're constantly experiencing and surrounding themselves with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you were saying that, I was like, well, that's kind of the essence of what Creator Course is all about. I mean, at the end of the day, you are the creator. You are the manifester in your own life who gets to pick what you believe or don't believe. And, you know, I'll point to somebody who I speak to on a regular basis. I won't name their name because I don't want to, and I don't want to put them on that spot. But the idea is that there is somebody in my life who constantly says, oh, but that's not possible. Oh, that's not possible. And my answer to this person every single time, and it pisses them off a little bit, but I think now it's sinking in a little bit further, is because you believe it so. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you believe it's not possible, it's not possible. Yeah. Then it's 100%. You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Guaranteed, right? Not to quote Wayne Gretzky as a typical Canadian, but the idea is, no, but it's true. The reality is that if you don't believe it's going to happen, then it's not going to happen. And the opposite of that is maybe you don't believe it's not going to happen. Maybe you don't believe it's impossible. But if you don't put intent into it happening, if you don't start believing that it's going to happen, more so than just kind of sitting there and waiting for it to happen, then it also most likely won't happen.
Because even just a oh sure sure it could happen.
Great.
You know,
it'd be great to go on this thing or on this trip or do this thing. The reality is that only really truly happens when your intentions, your heart are aligning towards that. You know, I couldn't create Green Seed, this crowdsourcing platform, or Valhalla or anything. I couldn't be a creator of any kind of content if I wasn't aligning myself with what I really truly want to do. And I might be able to do it for a little bit, you know, like I can do something here and there or whatever, but I won't be able to persist it for a long time. And the things that I do love to do, the things that really do speak to who I want to be and what I want to do, those are the things that are persisting. This podcast has proven to me time and time again. I'm stoked about this podcast. I am always happy to do it. And therefore, because I have that intention that I say, I'm going to be a podcaster and I'm going to be this person who goes every single week and talks to somebody and releases a podcast once a week. And despite how many people listen to it or don't listen to it, it doesn't matter. The point is I like to do it. Why? Exactly. Because I like to talk to you. I like to talk to Nathaniel. I like to talk to Mateo, who I've done a podcast with in the past. I've liked to talk to, you know, earlier today I spoke to Sasha Stone. Awesome. You name it, like I'm talking to these people, and these are the people I'd like to surround myself with, and these are the people that I might as well interact with as much as possible.
Wouldn't you say it's an emotional thing?
Oh, of course.
Right? Like the reason you continue to do it, and the things that do stick with people, whether, you know, because we're in this world now where you can do anything. You can like get into anything. You can try anything. Yeah. And what sticks is the stuff that hits you like on this emotional level. Yep. And just on that note, you know, emotions are something we've been very much so influenced to not have a strong relationship with. Where they're either something that's so overwhelming we have mechanisms to shut it out, or you know, or it's something that's so that we jump into and roll with so far it completely takes us out of the moment. And I think that's also a main. I can feel it when I watch Valhalla videos and you guys building stuff or working in the fields and everything, and it's like you can see. Even in the middle of that hard work where literally your mind might be coming up with all these reasons why you're not having fun digging a bunch of holes, but your body is having fun. You can feel the motivation and the inspiration and all the stuff behind it. And, you know, a big component of that, and I love how this ties in then to Creator Course, the main goal for this platform, Creator Course being a school and a community platform, is to get everybody tapped in to their personal version of that emotional fire that comes with someone being tapped into what they're passionate about. Yeah. And even more than that, because it's fine to be, sure, I could like read books all day about what I'm passionate about, but to be actually involved and creating something out of it and physically, emotionally, intentionally, locally doing something with my being based on these emotions and based on these passions and having these emotions really just be a guidance system for what I'm here to do. And the last 7 or 8 years of my life have all been guided by what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Yeah. You know, and I think that's a journey that more and more people are opening up to, and I'd say it's the number one journey that that I see making the biggest impact in people's lives, because I'm involved in all these. I've coached, over 1,000 people, been involved in and witnessed all these different educational courses and online communities and things happening. And the number one thing that is really that sticks and really provides and facilitates an actual authentic transformation in somebody's lives is them, one, like not being afraid to feel their emotions.
Yeah.
And then two, being open to realizing that those emotions are a guidance system for them. And then three, like having that be freaking exciting, and then going off and letting the world and letting their feelings like literally like pull them into their purpose.
Yeah.
Pulling them into like just the follow your bliss quote, Joseph Campbell's on it from the get-go. It's just like, it just makes perfect sense that
everything will be easier if you follow your bliss.
Yeah.
Everything, it will be tougher, but it will be easier. And that sounds crazy, because it will be tougher because you are being tougher on yourself, but not in a deconstructive way, which is like people are tough on themselves today. Like, oh, I'm too fat, or I'm not exercising enough, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not eating right, or I'm not whatever. We're tough on ourselves, and I'm tough on myself too. I'm like, shit, I didn't get this done, and I have a list, and it's endless, and I have this to-dos that go on forever. I can make them to do. I show up in the land, and I'm glad that when in our videos, our enthusiasm gets shined through, because sometimes I show up and I'm like, shit, there's so much to do, but that's the point, is the fact that I know that there's so much to do. I have not felt bored in forever.
Yeah, right.
Like, I have not been like, I'm bored right now because I have nothing to do. Like, I don't know what that's like anymore. I really, truthfully don't, because there was always something I want to do. There was always something that I can like put my time and energy in and be like, I'm excited to do it,
And when there is that space of doing nothing, I'm almost more entertained in that space than any other space, right? It's like because when am in that space, I just shifted some pages because I wanted to show like here's a little like a list of all these different things, right?
Yeah.
I could write up a whole page like this probably 5 times a day of like brand new things that need to get done, or ideas that come up, or all these different things.
Great minds think alike.
Oh gosh, that's hot.
I have all kinds of little things, notes. I do dabbles, and then eventually, when the page is getting a little too chaotic, I cross out all of these things, and I'm like, wow, shit, I got a lot of these done. Now all I need to do is just move on to the next one. And I flip the page, and I make this whole new list, and this is this is really what I preach. I always say that people are like, oh, how am I ever going to achieve my dreams? Well, I'm like, well, you're not going to achieve your dreams by having your dreams land upon your lap tomorrow morning. And they're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm like, so why don't you focus on the progress and not the perfection? Stop thinking about the dream all the time and just the dream. Think about the steps that it takes to get to that dream.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the education, right? The learning that you need to do to just kind of hop your way over boop, 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 all the way up the staircase to get to the top of the stairs. I mean, how many people climb staircases by thinking about the last step? You don't think about the last step. How do you get on top of a staircase? You take the first step, and then the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And that, to me, is what Valhalla is about. And it's not about it only for you guys. It's about it for us. Yeah. Valhalla is a learning situation for me, for Jerm, for Lawrence, for whoever. When we're at Valhalla, when we're making a solar shed, I've never made a solar shed in my life. You think I know what I'm doing? Like, you think, but I figure it out, and now I can tell you that I have 3D plans that are made for a solar shed that you guys can build that can maybe change how people view creating a solar shed in their backyard or something. I don't know. The idea is that we're learning it too. We're learning it too, and that seems to be what Creator Course is about. That seems to be why we produce these content. That seems to be why you guys are putting this online school together. Which I don't know how much of your fans know about or whatever, but the idea is that, or their followers or supporters, but the idea is that I know what's coming, and I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for me, and I'm excited for the world. Like, I'm excited just to see alternative education really begin to organize and become less and less alternative, actually, and more like the education, education.
Exactly. I mean, a big part of our ultimately not too long-term strategy is to have Creator Course be implemented into mainstream schools as like a digital platform that's even, even just a necessary, because a big part of Creator Course, it isn't just, because there's a lot of online schools, and when you look at Khan Academy as a great example, one of the most beautiful, well-developed, well-designed, robust education systems, you go in there and all the categories are mathematics, science, biology, history, anthropology, this and that, all important stuff, extremely important stuff, very, very valuable stuff.
Yeah.
Creator Course won't have any of those kinds of classes.
Yeah. It will be much more on another level.
We'll dive in. There's going to be a lot of science-based stuff, a lot of stuff about the body and biology, about, even history and different things. But this is more an actual, it's like a school for your life, for your lifestyle, and for your experience of being in a body and having a consciousness and having a mind and emotions. So having a category, as opposed to having like a mathematics category, we have an emotions category, right? Yeah. With hundreds of different courses and classes and webinars and different exercises and practices on everything to do with emotions.
Yeah.
From like learning how to be confident, or learning how to, I think, and this is something I think all of us could learn, learning how to experience stress in the body, but not let it overwhelm you, but still gain the lesson out of it. Something that I've been dealing with a lot is actually intentionally tracking stress.
So what are you doing for that? Like, walk us through a little bit of that. I'm actually personally interested in something like that.
I mean,
my stress, which you will always have, no matter what you do, no matter how much purpose you have. It's just that your only difference that will change is how much you can deal with it, right? And and how much you can accept it and then use it for positive good and actually potentially heal something or create a new idea versus destroy you. So by all means, don't get me wrong. I still stress about certain things too.
Oh yeah,
and we always will. That's part of being a human, I think. Is having that emotion.
I always like to remind people, even in the world, let's say we wake up tomorrow and there's world peace and everyone has permaculture and everything's organic and right. Like, so let's just say tomorrow that happens, okay? And we're just in that perfect world.
I might be bored then. Sorry.
Yeah, right. But even in that world, you can still trip, fall over, and break your wrist.
Yeah.
You can still spill coffee on your pants.
Yeah.
You can still have a miscommunication with someone where there was a confusion, and then someone gets triggered and they're feeling a certain way, right? So we have to remember that even in this perfect world that we're all choosing to create, there's still dissonance in that world. There's still, like a plant will still kill another plant so it can get to the sunlight easier. Yep. Even in a world full of peace, all that stuff, it's still the case. So it's so not about avoiding stress or learning to like be happy all the time. In fact, that's really boring. I did that for like 6 months when I was like 17. It was very painful actually. And another point I like to make in this whole realm, when you exercise, your heart rate goes up and your temperature raises, right?
That's a stress.
But that's really good for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, in fact, that's probably one of the absolute healthiest things you can do. Get your heart rate up, breathing fast, and start sweating. The exact same thing happens when you're stressed. Your heart rate goes up and your temperature changes. The difference is the chemicals that happen at that same time. When you're exercising, you're actually releasing tons of dopamine and serotonin, all these happy chemicals that are flooding your body with the message like, hey body, this is good. This is good. Let's keep doing this. This is good. When you're stressed, you release all these other chemicals that are telling your body, hey body, it's basically telling your body fight or flight. Like, what are we going to do? Something's got to happen. So the first thing to acknowledge is that the moment you're stressed, you're in fact halfway there to being in one of the healthiest experiences your body can have, which is exercise. Okay, just being stressed alone, you're already, and the reason that happens is because stress is telling your body, get ready for something. Something needs to change. right? The stress is again, hey body, something's up. Something needs to happen. And unfortunately, we've gotten so, fight or flight works really good when you hear a growl in your cave and you got to run away from a saber-toothed tiger. That's fine, right? Like that's totally great.
Yeah.
But when it's like, oh man, my rent is due in 7 days and I don't get paid for 10 days, there's nothing to run from.
Yeah.
There's nothing to fight except
it's a very different kind of fight or flight.
But people initially, you start to either fight or flight from the conversation you're having with yourself in your head. You start either fighting with yourself or you start trying to like ignore it and just getting away from it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so the main thing is stress itself is giving my body what it needs to handle the situation. It's giving me an acute sense of alertness by having my blood flow. There's technically more oxygen going through my body. So there's a few of these things are really just like when you're not stressed, reminding yourself of what stress really is. So when it does happen, you're like, oh yeah, okay, okay, cool. You're like reframing what it means to you to be in that position.
You were just like preparing yourself for that fight or flight or whatever it is. You were just getting in the mode that you need to potentially solve the problem.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a very interesting outlook on how to do that. Okay, cool. So continue.
And just the real main thing for me, the practice that works for me is in fact calling out the stress before it happens. Like I could sit here right now and not embarrass myself, and I'm not going to share them all, but I could write out a whole list of all the things that I'm stressing about right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I could, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, but interestingly enough, it's a lot of the times it's the same stuff for everybody. Like I could make more money. I could have a better relationship with this person and this person and this person and this person. I could be better at so I literally once a week at least just pull out all of my stressors and I put them on a piece of paper and I look at them and they're right there and I have a relationship with them. And I go through each one at a time. And in fact, not from top to bottom, but I go for the most painful one first. The eat the frog analogy, right? Have you heard that?
Of course,
so it's like, for those that don't know, I think it's Brian Tracy who came up with that.
Not sure the names. I'm not good with that kind of stuff.
But basically, if every morning you wake up and the very first thing you do is eat a frog, literally, like eat a live frog, everything else you do that day is going to feel like a piece of cake. So in this same vein, and this is part of the back to that emotional thing. Okay, I'm gonna tie all this back in and how finding our passions and what we love, it creates this emotional resonance, this emotional momentum that we build up. And I can 1000% affirm that the more I am on my path and do what's exciting for me, the more emotional momentum I have built up so that I have the willpower and the internal safety to do exercises like this, like calling out my biggest fears and my biggest stress. Because I know that I have such a stockpile of joy and bliss and excitement and practice that I can bring into the moment to help me combat the stress that I'm also consciously bringing into that moment. I like that. The combination of to think that all the friends I've made along the way, all the things I've learned, all the techniques, I can bring all of that in and have this sort of arsenal that's got my back. Now it's time to okay, cool. This big stressor, this big thing. What is it and why and what's really up? And to just give myself the time to sit with it. So it is the combination of and people will, everyone, it's to just meditate. If you're stressed about something, meditate. Cool. That's great. I totally agree. What is meditation? Well, at this point, it's about 7 billion different things.
That's what I was about to say. What does it mean to you?
Exactly.
There's no one version of meditation that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
My version of meditation, truth be told, I was is sometimes I just crank that music and just dance like an idiot. And every once in a while, I will dance and with nobody watching, and just kind of let it out and just think about all of those random things. But I like what you said, which is that you write your stresses down. See, being able to identify them on a written down statement and then seeing them on this little piece of paper and being like, oh, wow, You're not as big as I thought you were. Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, we all hear this, like, write what you're grateful for, or gratitude, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is great. Don't stop doing that. If you're doing it, keep doing it. If you're not doing it, get on it. Yeah, exactly. Get on it, or at least think about it. And I do suggest writing things down. And writing things down are a great way of, like, of kind of clearing up your mental space. You know, if you have a whole bunch of things that you're working on, write them down so you don't have to think about them, and then you can just refer to that paper. You know what I mean? Like, oh, refer to my brain over here. Oh, yes, this compartment. Okay, no problem. I'll do that now. Yeah. Or I'll do this. Okay, no, I'll do this right after I do this.
The brain isn't designed for storage. It's not a storage.
It's not a storage device. It's a hard drive. It's meant to. It's the processing power, not the hard drive, but it's the processing power of your computer brain, if you will. Okay.
Yeah.
You're meant to process, and the fastest way that you can process is that you have your storage off site. You have your storage off here, and it goes boop, and it flows right through, and then you're coming out with output on the end, and that's your, you know, what's popping up on your screen or what's popping up in your life is that output. And so,
wow, that's so true.
It really is. It really is.
Like, I just thought of just the other, like, I could be like, cool, I need to write a blog. That's one of my next tasks, right?
Sure.
And I could just, like, be thinking of that all day. Cool, I need to write a blog, and I'm working. So I'm, like, writing emails to someone, and I'm, like, halfway through the email, I'm like,
shit, I need to write a blog.
I got to write a blog. So it just keeps coming up. But the moment I write that down in a designated, like a trustworthy task spot, so I write that down, I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And then when it's like, cool, done with task, what's the next task? I can, like, plug in. So it's like, cool, write a blog. So now I just plug that in, boop, and then whoosh, and the blog comes out, and it's good to go. And I could have, and in fact, when I don't do it that way, and I'm just thinking about it all day, when I decide, like, cool, now's the time, I'm going to sit down and do my blog, I've already put so much mental energy into that thing that it doesn't just stream out.
Yeah.
But if I just set it aside, I don't even think about it. In fact, I feel like Jack Canfield shared in a video once. He was like, when I have a bunch of problems I need to solve, I write them all down on a piece of paper at night and put them down next to my bed before I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning and I have all the answers. And it's literally, and I've also seen different write-ups and studies and stuff showing why this works. When you ask your mind a question, it will come up with an answer. Yeah. Even if whether it's accurate or not,
it will come up with an answer.
It will come up with an answer. So, but, you know, on a deeper level, your subconscious mind is always, in every way, trying to sort out your life.
Yeah.
It's trying to keep your life in place based on the archetypes and the belief systems that you have as a part of who you are. So when I write down that I need to do a blog post, and my frontal brain knows, like, cool, I don't have to think about that because it's there and it'll come up later when it's time to think about it. But even so, that happens and I'm not thinking about it, but my subconscious mind is literally writing the blog.
Yeah.
It's already writing that blog. Absolutely. While I'm working on other things. And the more, a great example, we will literally have a class on that in Creator Course. And it's like, I get so excited. My emotional momentum comes from realizing the opportunity at hand to give people these tools and these abilities where we're really just tapping into our original capabilities as humans. Like, this is basics.
It's like sharpening our knives, right? It's like we have knives, we have tools, we have things, and we're just getting better at it, better at wielding them, better at using them, better at, like, carving out the things that we want.
Almost like
more and more precise.
Everybody thinks they're a spoon and a fork at this point. You know what I mean? That's where it's really at.
Consume.
Yeah. It's like, and we need to. Just with that knife analogy, it's almost like it's more than just sharpening the knife. It's like people think they're a spoon.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, what do you mean sharpen the knife? I'm just a spoon. Like, who am I to be sharpened into a knife to cut through all the bullshit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I get that. And I want to add one little
spoons are great, by the way. Spoons are great.
Sporks are the best.
Not bagging on the spoons, yeah.
Sporks are the next level.
Yeah.
But but seriously, on a serious note on that, it's very important, and I tell this in my coaching that I do. You know, I have this book. I make everyone get a book, and I tell them to skip the first 10 pages and I make them write, you know, the first 3 pages are on day 1, and then we talk about the next pages as we go. And I actually cater it to them, so no one person has the exact same book, even though everyone believes that I'm making them skip 10 pages, and I know exactly what I'm going to tell them to do. I do know the first 3 pages, everything else is catered to them. That being said, I tell them that on page 11 that they should write that list down of what they're going to do today, okay, or what they have to do, whether it's their gratitudes or whether it's their stresses. Now that's a good idea. I'm going to add that to my book. But stresses, gratitudes. I'm going to focus more on gratitudes every day, but stresses maybe every once in a while or when I'm feeling them more. And then the list of things to do. And identifying, if I got this one thing done today, this is what I would be happy. But I tell people that it's super important that they write it down, not on their iPhone, not as a reminder on their calendar, not on the iCal, Google Cal, not on a laptop, on a piece of paper. And I tell you why. Because I don't know about you, but this thing right over here, this thing, it's super distracting. Like if I get on the internet, if I plug in and connect, it's over. Like my mind is just like
browser blackout.
It's great. If you saw how many browsers I have open at any one moment, it's not even funny. It's really not. And it's like, that's my mental diarrhea. Like that's my, like, that's like, you're going to talk this, that, and I'm not closing off some of the chapters when I need to. But what I can tell you is the only saving grace, the only thing that makes me have any version of efficiency is because I wrote it down. And then any day that I have a moment, and I'm like, oh, it's 2 o'clock, and I only have a call at 4, and I have this, and that's okay. So I have my agenda as a reference online somewhere. But in those free moments, which I leave, you know, I leave them open. I'm like, oh, checklist. Oh, okay. Well, the highest value right now would be this. And so I just take that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can knock that one out. Oh, and if I do this, I can do this one right after because this one is dependent on that one. So boom, 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 and go. And so I make myself like a little game plan, right? Like I gamify my life. It's like I'm playing a sport or I'm playing football. Well, guess what? In football, I don't just run out on the field and be like, hey, guys, run it wherever the fuck you want. I'm just going to throw it, and it's going to happen. No, we practice the plays. We're like, okay, we're going to do this play. You're going to run over there. That defensive guy is going to go on that way. He's going to be tricked, and we're going to be like, woo, touchdown, whatever. The simplest little thing, how you start your day, that one task. If you do one thing in the morning every day, it's wake up, be grateful for something, write it down, and then write down some things that you're going to do that day to further your dreams, to further your why and your purpose, okay? Now, if you don't have that, that's another story. We'll get there. But the idea is that when you have that, if you write it down on a piece of paper, you will be so empowered.
Yeah.
And that being said,
it's real because it's real. It's not because when it stays in your head, it's already combating with a billion other thoughts for the bandwidth, you know.
Everything is combating with it.
So to just have it right there automatically tells your brain like, hey, this thought's actually more important than these other ones. Yep. And your brain can start to aggregate more supportive thoughts. If it's like, well, if that's important, then cool, let's think about that in an important way. And it starts to, you know, work on that.
And I love that you said that it literally manifests, like the blog writes itself in you. Because I feel that way too. And I don't think everyone does, or I think everyone does, but just they're not as in tune with it. But the reality is that if I stop spending that like RAM, right, the RAM that I have in my brain power to be able to process remembering that I have to do it, then I have extra free RAM while I'm doing some other task like editing a picture or doing something that is still processing that next task because I know it's there. And it's processing and processing and processing, and it goes. And I love the idea of, and you mentioned sleep, and maybe we'll dive into that a little bit. I love the idea of like writing something down at night and then waking up the next morning and having the answers. Because you know what I like about when you write something down too is that you're kind of putting yourself a little timeline, even without writing a timeline, or even writing a specific time for what you wrote down. Generally, you're on a shorter timeline when you write something down than if it's just like in your mental, you know, somewhere in a drawer, somewhere in your mind. Okay, that puts a decision point to it. Like if you tell yourself, hey, I have this problem. I have to make a decision on this problem by this day at this time. You are way more likely to make that decision than if you're just like, oh, I'm going to make it at some point. And here's the example of that. Think about when you were at school, right? You had an assignment. something was due in like 3 months time, there's no way you were starting the next day. There's no way. Nobody I know started the next day.
Never.
And if they did,
or at all.
Exactly.
In my case.
Exactly. But the reality is, when it was coming down to that deadline, you were like, ooh, and it just wrote itself. It just came out of you like this 47-page document just was like boom, and you're like, whoa, holy shit. And so all you need to do is do that with your own daily life, your own daily tasks, and it doesn't have to just be like all about productivity. It could be like write something down like, hey, be thankful for 5 minutes, or do yoga for 5 minutes, like in the middle of the day, or
go for a walk.
Wake up and stretch, like just get up and like move your body and like feel something. You know what I mean? Like all of those things can be little reminders that you have yourself. You can write them down, and they can be super important and change your perspective.
It's huge. I wanted to jot in real quick. This is actually a really important. It reminds me of an important component of a lecture that I've developed for high schools. And actually, with this next school year coming in, I'm going to be doing a little like local high school lecture tour.
Oh, awesome!
And the whole thing, because I didn't graduate from high school.
Oh wow! And I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't graduate. I would have
never known that either.
Yeah. I didn't graduate from high school because I started to literally ditch class to go home and watch YouTube videos of stuff I was actually interested in learning, like permaculture and quantum physics and meditation and comparative religions and spirituality and science of the body and the psyche and all these things, right? And it got very clear to me, like, oh wow, I'm able to live a life doing what I love to do. Like that's what that ultimately led me to. It was that same time I saw, The Secret and What the Bleep Do We Know, and then just started diving deep into all the stuff. And I just stopped going to school. Of course, like my family wasn't very excited about it. And I ended up I turned 18 before I would have graduated. So once I was 18, I was like, cool, well, it's my decision now. And I'm over it. I'm literally getting more out of, by the time I was 18, in fact, I had developed an entire document with my friends on how we were going to become sustainable and build our own off-grid property based on all the free education online. So I was like, why even, finish school, let alone try to get into college when like I know what I need to do is like know how to grow my own food and know how to like build things and know all this kind of stuff, right? So this whole lecture is based around the idea, though, one, to empower these kids to finish high school, because it's a great practice module. I could imagine I could get up in the stage in front of maybe 2,000, like my high school, like 2,000 kids, and say, raise your hand if you don't like school. And like probably half of the kids are going to raise their hand. And maybe half of those half are just doing it to be funny or whatever. But like, it's true, right? Like, and I could say, how many of you know that you want to be a singer or a writer or an artist or travel the world or develop video games or or play sports or do, right? All these creative different things that are in the realms of like
they're less scholastic.
Yeah, and it would probably be closer to 80 to 90% of the kids, are going to want some sort of role like that. The whole lecture is based around showing them how even when you go off to live a life that's comprised of, like literally right now, I'm living the life of my dreams, 100%. And I only do the things I want to do. But regardless of that, I still do things I absolutely don't want to do.
It's gonna happen.
It's part of the process. It's like, so happen. Even if because right when I left school at that time, I first started my YouTube channel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be a YouTuber. This is perfect. I can make money from the AdSense, and maybe I can get sponsored or something, and I can just share information and do all this stuff. Cool. Well, in order for me to get sponsors, I have to do hours of research. I have to write up a proposal. I have to get good at copywriting. I have to understand contracts, and I have to understand legal agreements. I have to I have to like file my business name, and I have to do all the. So that's all stuff I don't want to do. It's in the same. It's like, oh no, this reminds me of school. I don't want to do all that, right? So it's like, but now that stuff is the stuff I want to do, because it's like eating the frog. I know that for me to do that is the only thing that actually allows me to do what I'm here to do and what I love to do. So the whole lecture is based around, getting these kids to be like, hey, well, guess what? For all of you that like don't even care about college maybe, or you're over this whole system and you just want to go off and be your creative, passionate self and you feel confident in doing that, well, I dare you to try to finish high school in the most badass way you could. Because if you can't do that now, it's going to take you the next few years to just gain some freaking discipline, some self-discipline, And I think that is one of, for the people listening, I wouldn't be surprised if a few people are like, okay, cool, Mark, cool, Nathaniel, like writing all this stuff down, all this tasks, like that's your guys' style. I get it. That's for you. You guys are like building stuff and you're doing all these things. That's not me. I just like to roll with the flow. That's totally cool. And I get that. And I just want to remind everyone that we're all in this together. And I promise you, ways where you can push yourself past your comfort zone and create a level of structure and a level of planning and just awareness. It's really just awareness, right? Because we're this conscious community, right? We're here to be the new conscious way. Well, if we're going to be conscious, it's our responsibility to have that extra level of awareness and be really solidly clear on how we're operating in our life. Yep. And that's basically it. And some might say, oh, well, that's very masculine approach, or that's very even the old paradigm because it's structures and rules and all these things. And it's like, that's fine. And there's a reason the old paradigm lasted as long as it did, right? They had a decent...
It's still lasting. I don't
exactly.
care what you're saying. It's still lasting, and it's going to maintain itself for a long last fucking time.
Yeah,
and it's not... There's benefits to both sides because the reality is that there is no real new and old paradigm. There is just this paradigm. And this paradigm is best built with both the right brain and the left brain working together. Yeah. There is no one way that you're going to be. And if you go too far in one extreme, I freaking guarantee you're going to want to come back to the other side. I don't care. You're going to be like, I want to live off the grid. I want to be in this cabin in the woods. I want to be like, I hate society and you guys are all shitty and I'm going to do everything on my own. I guarantee you that the day, like, you'll get there. Like, if you're really motivated, you can get there. But the day that you're done, the day that it's like, oh, this cabin in the woods is done and I've made it, you're going to be like, shit, I wish I brought a friend with me. Or I wish I went back to the city. Like, you're going to go right back to the other extreme and your mind will just bring you right back down that path. And some of us go faster. Some of us go like, boop, 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 and it's like a game of Pong. And some of us go like real slow and we're like, we feel all the sides. And the reality is that as much as I try and be in the middle all the time, and I'm sure as much as you try and be in the middle all the time, I'm never going to maintain a full balance, and that's what the beauty of life is.
Oh, dude,
that's
balance?
That's the beauty of like all of that. And I always say that the day I'll be balanced is the day I die, because then I won't have that consciousness in me. And even then, I don't know.
That word specifically, balance, is bullshit, because when something's perfectly balanced, there's no movement. Like on a scale with 50 pounds on one side, 50 on the other side, it doesn't move. Yeah. That's dead. That is dead. That literally is dead.
That's exactly what
I like harmony, the word harmony. I'd much rather be in harmony than be in balance. Yeah. Because, you go off into a forest, the forest itself is in harmony. But you could go to one pocket of the forest and there's way too many chipmunks and they're eating all the nuts and the trees aren't happy with it. Or you go to the other pocket and this part's off balance. Right? There's different parts that are off balance, but the whole thing is in harmony. Yeah. And because of that, the whole thing actually works. And it's just our human minds that judge the little pieces for being out of. The main point I wanted to make with that last statement is kind of like the insight, what you and me, I feel like the archetype of the conversation that we've been having is hitting with people just to let people know, and I can say this very confidently, Mark and I are in a lot of ways at the forefront of a very big movement. And this movement has mostly to do with the individual's relationship to themselves and how they are relating to themselves and literally being the creator of their own life. This is a billion steps past just you create your own reality. This is like a real tangible, how do we actually do this? How do we do it in the feminine and masculine way? How do we do it in this way where it's flowing and so heart-centric and so filled with spirit, and at the same time so like just dialed in and on it and so pro that the whole thing is just, we get to be all of who we can be when we design it in this container that can actually support that. And I just want to like really make that point clear that, one, if you're really looking to like step yourself up, keep paying attention. Specifically to Mark, he's at the front of this, and there's a small group of organizations, people, blogs, and magazines that I know you're tracking and involved with, and so am I. And it's really hitting this note very importantly. And I think this is such for me, it is the most important point right now in the world, is people's relationship to themselves.
It's the first evolution of a path that we're on. And it's a consistent evolution because we die and we come back to life. We're like, you know what I mean? Like, because we always have new generations and we've started on this path. We've kind of built Noah's Ark, if you will, and we're rounding up all the people and we're like, come on, let's do it. Let's sail the seas and we'll make it. And we are going to make it just because of that, because we are going to step into that consciousness. We are going to realize what it is when we stress. We are going to realize what it is to be in line with our harmony, really. And like you said, and not necessarily just in balance, because we were told a whole lot of different things, and a whole lot of that stuff was really fucking smart. The fact that you're listening to this is fucking beyond me. Like that, I apologize for swearing, but it's so overwhelming to think that this computer's working and we're having this conversation and you're in California and I'm in Montreal and like this is happening. But what is becoming so normalized to me is that you are who you are, and that even though you're like halfway, maybe not halfway around the world, whatever, halfway around the world, that we could be in such alignment with that, because there is this kind of collective conscious that's kind of stirring the pot, and then we're kind of like getting this momentum that is really building and happening and building up inside of us, and we're dreaming about it, we're living it, we're experiencing it in so many different ways. What it's also creating to me, which is the second level of this evolution, is community. We're recreating community. We spent a lot of time really kind of breaking it down and trying to understand it, and we actually segregate it in many ways, as much as we all live on the same streets and do the same things, and we all shop malls or whatever, like the average person. But we create these communities, but what we're really doing is kind of segregating ourselves for the last while. And right now there's this push back to community, this push back to integration, to cooperation, to working together, to congregating in certain areas like Facebook and even online and in parks and whatever. That congregation, that glue, that coagulation is really the second step of what's really happening right now.
Yeah.
But it is starting in you. And it sounds cheesy as shit, but it really is the truth. And the second step to that is you being the best of you, right? Always kind of trying to be better than who you were yesterday, and not necessarily your neighbor, which is that's the kind of old paradigm, if you will. And then taking that and bringing that to your community and asking, hey, what can I do for the community that helps it? And then take from the community that helps me, right? Yeah. And that exchange, that harmonious back and forth of I'm like lacking here, so you're helping me here, but I'm strong here, and so I'm helping you here. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's what business is. That's what all of these things are. It's like people are just fulfilling gaps and voids, and those gaps are turning less and less into like physical, tangible things, as much as like we still buy things, we still need things, but they're turning more and more into like the service side of things, like dealing with our emotions, dealing with, hey, like making sure that you're on the ball on doing what you want to do, or teaching you how to blog, or teaching you how to stay in shape, or teaching you how to do yoga. But most of all of those things, at the end of the day, no matter how much I teach you how to blog, no matter how much Nathaniel teaches you how to find your higher purpose, or whatever it is, it's all going to boil down to you. It really is. I think we said this in a conversation at one point that we had. It's like half of what we're doing when we're coaching someone is really just telling them the things that they want to hear, or the things that they don't want to hear, but they kind of have to hear.
Yeah, totally.
Part of coaching is just being there for you, to tell you those things, and just to remind you, like, hey man, You already know what's inside of you. You already know what your heart is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just follow it.
In fact, I'd say like 80% of my sessions will be someone being like, I'm really having this problem with this thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. So what do you think you should do about it? And they go, oh, well,
I get to decide.
They're like, I could do this, or I could do, I'll do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. What else? And like, well, actually, that was my main problem, and I just figured it out. It's only been 10 minutes, and it's like, oh my gosh, like sometimes that's all it is, and I do want to, and that dives deeper into like my main area of study, which is like the mind and the psyche and your thought dynamics. People don't create that space for themselves enough because they're just too bombarded with all these other thoughts. Like they're just happening on the regular basis. You could just sit there, look at a white wall, and your mind will generate thousands and thousands of thoughts based on nothing that has to do with your direct moment experience, So I just want to remind people, as well as you're watching, if you're like, okay, cool, like I get that, but sometimes that is the hardest thing to do, to just stop for a moment and be like, okay, cool, Nathaniel. So like, what are we going to do about this? Right? Like, it's just that. And that kind of is the collective experience of the entire world right now, right? Where everyone's so quick to just jump to, well, let's just bomb them, or let's just spend a bunch of money on it, or let's just take a bunch of money out of it, or let's just, instead of like, wait, well, what can I actually do about this? Not just a Band-Aid, not just a remedy. What's going to cure the underlying thing, And that's just, that's so what's up right now.
It's what's happening for sure.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about the fact that that's what's going on right now. We're evolving into ourselves. Weirdly, we're kind of like turning into ourselves and looking inwards and it's just this natural process that's happening. And then we're trying to figure out what we're doing within our community and being a part of things and just I mean, like what you just said is brilliant. We just need to tune in. We just need to kind of like dial the radio and when we feel like we're going this way and you hear it scramble a little bit and you feel it going the other way and you scramble a little bit, you're like, I know where it needs to be. I know where that wave is coming in perfect and it's harmonious and it sounds good and it works. And that's, that to me is what Creator Course is all about. That to me is what Valhalla is all about. It's just doing it, trying it, exploring, not being afraid to fail. Understanding that it's just a process and that it's not all about the perfection, but the journey is really the fun of it. Like trying to make the solar shed is as painful as it is sometimes is the fun of it. It really is. And totally. That's where I feel I'm evolving. That's where I'm sure other people at Valhalla feel they're evolving. That's where I know you're evolving as well. And all we need to do is just keep at it, keep trying, keep putting our energy and love into it. And when we don't have answers, look for them. Go to places like Creator Course. Go to Mind Unleashed or Collective Evolution or High Existence or whatever. Okay, because there are answers there, and there are things that will blow your mind, and you just need to kind of like think about it, write them down. If something amazing is coming to you, write them down and stay focused on what you wrote. And don't, because here's another thing I heard recently. I have all these lists everywhere. Lists. I'm like, yeah, but put them all in one book and really focus on a day-to-day list versus a list of things that you're going to do some point super far. Like try and break it down to today because that's what you have. It's today. You don't know tomorrow. You're like, you woke up this morning, you're lucky today. Like, let's deal with today.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about tomorrow. And your actions will slowly but surely accumulate onto one another and it'll just work out for you. It really will.
Absolutely.
It really, really will.
It totally will. Oh my gosh. I almost feel like I want to, and we could talk about this. This is totally just off the cuff, but I feel like I would like to offer the opportunity to I know we've discussed a bit of our own coaching and stuff before in another chat that we had.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious if anybody is like inspired by this talk or gets sort of like the next step necessary for them in this whole process. I would personally love to offer a discount of my coaching sessions, even in tandem. Like I would love to offer somebody like for the price of one to get a session with both of us or something of that nature. I just think that just feels very like ripe and wanting to
put it this way. Write to us
Yeah.
in my email, write to info@valhallamovement.com. Okay. And then tag it I don't know, tandem. Just tag it tandem. Okay. And I'll know exactly what it is. Okay. And then I'll make sure to forward it to Nathaniel. So info@valhallamovement.com. If you want to put your email out there too, people can email you.
I mean, if you just go to nathanielsolace.com, there's a little like a contact form on there, and that'd be the easiest.
nathanielsolace.com. Worst case scenario, I'm sure you can find him through creatorcourse.com, Facebook. You could Google him, whatever. You're gonna figure it out. If you really want to be a part of that session, I love the idea. I was thinking of having you as a guest coach on one of our calls as well, and something like that, and then bringing and doing some kind of exchange. I am super excited. First of all, can you believe it's been an hour? Which is insane.
Can what?
Can you believe it's been an hour?
Oh crap!
We've literally been talking for an hour.
Oh wow!
So that is kind of bringing it to a close for this time. There will be many more. But that being said, creatorcourse.com, write to us, info@valhallamovement, tag it tandem in the subject line. I don't know what it's about. We'll set it up. We'll figure out what that means to you, and what you're, maybe there's a particular challenge that we're going to try and navigate together, all three of us, or four of us, or maybe you have a whole group of friends that want to be a part of it. I don't know. But write to us. Let's make it happen. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure to smash that like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps us. It helps Nathaniel. Let's make this happen. Let's live to our fullest potential. Thank you so much, Nathaniel, for being a part of this. I am
thank you, Mark.
Honored to be here, and I'm super stoked to have you on soon.
Yeah, such a pleasure. I can't thank you enough. Maybe I can someday, but I'm just so appreciative for you, the whole Valhalla team, and everything that you guys are doing. It's been an honor to be on the show and just getting to hang out. Really, we're gonna have a whole Creator Course like interview series podcast thing as well, and we're gonna have you on board and the whole crew. And
I already told you I'm gonna be a teacher on that course, not because I believe that I know everything, but only because I would love to contribute to it. So, and I know I'm sure other people will find value in some of the things. So, yeah, I mean, let's make it happen, man.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, and don't forget to rate and leave a comment. Until next time, be the hero you've always dreamed of being.